For the iPad 9th Gen, it would be really easy for me to sit here and tell you that it's better than the last one. It's got some cool internal updates like center stage on the front camera and the A13 chip, and then just to leave it at that. But with Apple's positioning of this being a student-directed device, I think it's only fair to judge this iPad on how good it actually is for student work. So over the past week or so, I've done a bunch of studenty things with this iPad to see if it is indeed good enough to go to school, college, or university with. And if you are a fan of iPads and aesthetic tech videos, be sure to subscribe. I've got loads of them here on the channel, so go and have a browse and come and join the community. Anyway, let's get right into it. Okay, I'll admit, I haven't actually been a student in a few years, but I was a teacher around a year or so ago, so I do know one of the main things that students spend a huge amount of their time doing is typing things up. Whether it's research notes, essays, or ideas, you'll likely be spending a lot of your time typing on any computer you come into contact with. So that seems like a good place to start with this review. Assuming you have a keyboard of some sort, the typing experience on iPad is generally very good. I wrote this entire script for the video on this iPad and I didn't have any troubles with the Apple keyboard case and became quite fast on it after getting used to the size. iPads have become a great place to word process over the years, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it for this. Once you're used to the multitasking features on iPadOS 2, you can easily research websites alongside your work and craft essays as such as you would anywhere else. If you're not into typing, then the Apple Pencil experience on here is pretty excellent. I'm really used to the 2nd gen Pencil, but the 1st gen is really no slouch. Note-taking on this iPad is an excellent experience, and it's a great companion for any lesson or for just taking notes in general. The drawing capabilities of this iPad and Pencil combination are also fantastic. Drawing, sketching, and designing on Procreate feels as good as ever, and the size of this iPad, and funnily enough the bigger bezels, makes it a great canvas to move around and to work on. I've done a huge test on note-taking apps for the iPad before on this channel, so I'll link that below if you'd like to see it, but there is one that I keep coming back to, and I'm really excited to tell you that they're today's video sponsor, Goodnotes. Goodnotes is a note-taking app for the iPad that really leans into the physicality of having an actual notebook. It's what I've been using for the past year or so to keep track of all my shot lists, ideas, and work notes, and combined with the Apple Pencil, it's a fantastic way to keep all your note-taking digital. Aside from being a great note-taker, Goodnotes is also opening up a community feature. So imagine a cloud-based library where you can browse and download other people's notes, follow creators, add comments, and even leave likes. You can browse any type of notes you like with easy to use category files and search bars. There's loads to take in here and it's always expanding. I've personally been really enjoying notebook covers and design notes that people have made. These often contain color codes or just give me an inspiration for making my own notes even better. If you want to, you can add your own notes to the community and share them too. And as a bonus, if you do decide to do this, you get a ticket which you can use to enter the monthly prize giveaway, which includes prizes such as iPads, iPhones, AirPods, and loads more. So if you do fancy checking out the new community system in Goodnotes, then head over to the link in the video description to get onto the early access waiting list. And of course, thanks again to the kind folks over at Goodnotes for sponsoring this video. Next up, I jumped onto a Zoom call with a few others to see how the iPad held up, and this is where the new center stage comes into play really nicely. The new front-facing camera on the iPad will track you while you're on a call, so you always remain in the frame. It's a really neat little feature that's come over from the new iPad Pro models. And I'm not someone who personally moves around a lot when I'm on a video call, but if you're presenting something to a teacher or a class, then this is going to be a really useful addition. I do still have one huge bugbear when it comes to video calls on iPadOS and iOS by extension. You can't navigate away from the video call without losing your video feed. This is a real shame because a video call is already quite a disjointed experience, especially when you're trying to learn something. But if you are navigating around the iPad while you're on the call, then it's only going to be exacerbated by you appearing and then disappearing on everyone else's end. There is a way around this by setting up your call in a multitasking window, but it's really far from ideal, and I really hope Apple do try and sort it out soon. Of course, work isn't the only thing you'll want this iPad for. Luckily, content consumption has always been a strong point of any iPad, and there's no difference here with the 9th gen. Catching up on YouTube, Netflix, or Disney Plus on here is as good as it's ever been, and you can even get some decent gaming experiences on here too. Genshin Impact runs well on low settings with 60 frames per second, and games like Pokemon Unite run really nice and smoothly. That's all being helped along by the A13 Bionic chip that Apple has popped in here this year, which in real world use means that the iPad flies through most tasks you throw at it. I've yet to see any real slowdowns between all of the apps I use, and if you're focusing on those more simple student tasks like I've mentioned, then this is going to be plenty powerful enough, and you'll get excellent software support for a good few years too, which means this iPad should easily last you 4 to 5 years. Battery life is also going to be super important on this iPad too. If you're using this from writing notes to Zoom calls to watching videos and other general use, you'd hope that this could last you all day, and I'm pretty happy to say that the iPad 9th Gen should sort you out for an entire day of standard use. That's good news because charging on here is still really slow. I tried fully depleting the battery and then charging from there, and after half an hour I only topped up 20%, and after a full hour of charging I only got around 50%, so it's not quick at all to juice back up if you are in a pinch. Honestly though, after using this iPad alone for around a week or so, I can see why Apple hasn't really updated the design on this. It's still a totally functional look. The bezels are a little large, but it lets you grab the iPad without leaving smudges on the screen, and the Touch ID home button is such a nice feature. I never felt like I missed it compared to Face ID, but when you use it again, it just feels like home. It's a nice overall package too, even with a keyboard and Apple Pencil in tow. The iPad is a small and light thing to carry around all day, so if you are throwing it in your bag or you're just carrying it, it's never going to weigh you down. As ever, nothing is perfect and the iPad 9th Gen doesn't go unscathed. The big one here is the use of a Lightning port over USB-C. And look, I don't think Apple will bring that down to this model anytime soon. The iPad mini, Air and Pro models are all there for that, but it's still a very limiting port, especially for students. It's slow and you can't plug much in directly without having some sort of Lightning dongle. On the flip side of that though, the headphone jack is still here, which is lovely to see. So if you're not rocking any wireless headphones, you can still plug them in while keeping the Lightning port free for charging. I also can't help but think that a quick charge function would also be a world of help. Especially if you're jumping from class to class and you need that quick top up, then I think that feature would be really welcome here on these entry-level iPads. Before giving you my final thoughts, I wanted to comment on the Apple keyboard and the pencil and whether you need them or not. And look, only you can really decide this, but for me, I think at least grabbing the Apple Pencil is pretty much an essential to any iPad experience. And despite the still goofy way this one charges, I would say it's certainly worth considering unless you know drawing or marking things up like PDFs aren't going to be in your wheelhouse. Of course, if you can't quite stretch to the Apple Pencil, then there are alternatives too. The Logitech Crayon is about half the price and is well regarded, so that's well worth looking into. The Apple official keyboard is the harder sell though. I don't think there's any doubt that this is one of the best keyboards come case out there for this iPad, but the price point, which is £159, really makes the overall value proposition of the iPad a little harder to swallow. If you buy this and the Apple Pencil, that brings the price up to £567, which would net you a half decent laptop. The good thing is though, there's a huge variety of options out there for a keyboard on the iPad. Logitech makes some great ones on the higher end, but you can pay as little as £10 to £20 for a simple Bluetooth keyboard and it's going to work just fine. There's also one painful issue with the Apple keyboard. There's no space to store the Apple Pencil, meaning that it's going to be loose in your bag or pencil case, which could result in an expensive loss. I wish there was a pen loop attached here or just something to hold the pencil. I mean, there's even a ridge which feels like the perfect place for a magnet or something, but it's not here and I think that's a bit of a shame. Overall though, I do think it's well worth getting a pencil and keyboard or a decent alternative if you can. Despite how you might end up using the iPad, these add to the experience in really key ways and you'd be missing out if you skipped on them. Let's round this video up with some final thoughts. There's a lot to like here in the 9th generation of iPad. The A13 chip is nice and fast, center stage is a cool addition, and now that it starts with 64GB of storage over 32 and keeps that same £329 price point, it makes it a really appealing way to get into the iPad ecosystem and to start using it for your day-to-day work. However, before I say go and grab this iPad, you need to look at what you're studying, doing, or even planning to do in the future, and consider if the iPad can do it all. If it can, you're going to have a wonderful experience on here that will beat out any laptop at the same cost. And I think you'll likely enjoy working on here a lot more than you'd think. However, if you know you might need access to certain apps or the functionality of a classic laptop, then I would still say you're safer over there, at least for now. That rounds up this video and review. Let me know in the comment section below if you're using this iPad 9th Gen or one of the previous models. I'd love to know how it's holding up for whatever you're doing. And if you're a student, let me know if you use the iPad in general. I always enjoy reading what you have to say. Anyway, that's about it. Pop a like on the way out, that'd be massive, and I will see you all in the next one.